Waiting to begin never got anybody anywhere, and other interesting topics in my weekly recap number 8. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. The guy who's on social media who wants to build a legacy for his kids and pass on all the life and business lessons to each and every one of you. I'm a business coach, real estate investor, and an entrepreneur. Couple of quick ones, fast ones before we get started. This week, we got our waterfront property rezoned, or actually negotiated with the city, and the next step is to get the plan approved. We also decided that we will not be building anything on that lot, but rather get it listed and test the market and see what happens. Number 2, I signed a purchase contract on my apartment. I'm going to sell my house, and I have to move out of the house with the kids by the end of the year. Luckily, I was able to find the type of a property that I believe I'm going to be comfortable in and that I enjoy living in. The next step is to get it remodeled at the end of the year or beginning of the year after getting permits from the city. But that was a good thing, positive news. Also, my total number of clients has increased to 2 when it comes to my coaching business. Both word of mouth. I still don't have my website up and running, even though I promised last week. That's another story. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm excited about the clients, and this follows my strategy, which I highlighted in one of my previous videos, where I said that I would make an offer so compelling that it's impossible to say no to it. And that means in practice that I'm willing to work for free for X number of weeks with my new clients, collect feedback, make sure that whatever I offer adds value. And then if my clients are satisfied with my service, then the only thing I'm asking from them is to give me a review, a testimonial, and go from there. Couple of quotes I fell in love with this week. 1, victims use their past as their fate. Winners use their past as their origin story. And another one, in every situation, even in the most negative ones, I can always ask myself, how can I make this the best experience ever? The fallacy of the perfect pick. We seem to think that there has to be this perfect opportunity, perfect set of actions, perfect plan in order for us to get started, rather than trusting that the series of actions, that first bite, that first pick, and the ones after that are the ones that are enough. Because at school we were taught that there's only one right answer. But in reality, there are several right answers in life. We just need to trust that getting started is the right answer so that we can at some point get to our final destination. But waiting has never made anybody successful or happy. It's about getting started and making sure that we trust the process. This ties back to my website building thing, which I mentioned in my fast ones, in a way that I noticed that I was trying to make my website way too perfect instead of just launching it and trusting that the incremental steps and improvements will eventually make my website good enough for me. I designed my first own website 15 or 16 years ago when I started my own company in San Diego, California. And at that point, I remember mentioning to myself that I'm never going to do this again. It was such a brutal process. The tools back then were not very intuitive or user-friendly. I was able to make it up and running, but I don't know if it was ever really the best website out there. And then all the subsequent websites for my companies have always been done by somebody else. And there probably have been 10 or 15 different ones. And now, when I launched my business coaching service, I decided that I would take on that challenge again, because many of these hosting services, they advertise their artificial intelligence powered website builders, and it's supposed to be very easy and very user friendly. Yeah, right. Well, I'm not that tech savvy. I know how to use the basic tools and I know how to edit my own videos, so I figured that okay, since I've learned a lot, this would also be probably a lot more easy and intuitive than what it was 15 years ago. Well, not really. So I got deep into the editing process and changing pictures and changing wording and all of that. To make a long story short, my website is still not up and running. I've taken way too much time to get it done. I will finalize it. But looking back at myself, and this being a good reminder how we have this fallacy of the perfect pick, and it applies to me as well, trying to perfect something instead of just trusting that, yeah, this is fine, and then the incremental process and the steps will make it good enough for my business. This is not going to be my competitive advantage. I just need to get it over with and get it done and move on to the next topic. But typically, one of the reasons why we are perfectionists in life is that we have insecurities. We don't really trust ourselves. We wait for that perfect timing, that perfect opportunity. It's like buying that dream car of yours, and it sits in your garage for years, for decades, waiting for that perfect sunny day. And then at the end of the day, that day never comes. Then finally you get frustrated and you pull the car out of the garage and you notice that the battery is empty, or it malfunctions, doesn't start. That's usually what happens. A skill to get started, a skill to take action is like a muscle. You use it, it gets stronger. Everything gets easier. Myself, being in front of a camera is the exact same thing. The reason why I didn't get started in the first place until 4 or 5 months ago was that very same reason. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't this or that. Always a reason or an excuse, even though I've been extremely good at taking action, facing my fears, going towards the unknown. Still, we all have those past stories or experiences or weaknesses, insecurities that make us unsure. But it's just a matter of pushing through no matter what. Good and evil both increase at compound interest. If you think about it, the evil actions, the bad actions, there's a very short turnaround time from the time when you take the action, make the decision, until something catastrophic might happen. This week was a good reminder about that. I don't consider myself a hardcore hockey fan, but I follow NHL regularly. I know what's going on. I know the star players and whatnot. Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace, unfortunately died this week. There was a terrible bicycle accident when he was run over by this drunk driver, actually him and his brother. Just an example of how bad decisions by that driver, getting drunk, being behind the wheel, driving the car, making bad choices with his car, led to the ultimate bad outcome, somebody getting killed. And how then the great decisions or the good decisions don't have that same immediate impact. We don't get that instant feedback loop by doing the right things in life. And that's why it's so hard to be patient, because the grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. And at school, in our childhood, we were used to that instant feedback from our parents, from our teachers. People always told us if it was good or bad. And still in life, it works the same way with bad actions. They increase a compound interest. So it's in interest on interest. And the throughput time is short. But with the good actions, it's extremely long. When you start a business, all you have is your idea, your willingness to execute. And in the beginning, you think that you have all the patience in the world. But you don't know what it is until you're out there all by yourself and you lose money the first year or two, and your patience truly gets tested. Because nobody's giving you those good words. Nobody's giving you that instant feedback that you were so used to in your previous life. Even in corporate life, you get a lot more feedback. But as a business owner, it's way different. And that's why it's so hard to be patient. I have talked about this a lot in the past, but in order for us to get those little incremental pieces of feedback during the process, we need to create those metrics, those data points for ourselves. So instead of looking at the final outcome, which might be 5 or 10 years out in the future, we need to see the daily actions as the measuring sticks, as the feedback mechanism to ourselves, so that we stay on the right course and on the right path. School tests weaknesses, but life rewards strengths. I've been a little bit of a critic here in my own channel about the current school system. The way we teach our kids, those methods are from the 70s or 80s. We don't necessarily understand the individual elements of different students. We don't understand the modern technology and what it can offer in a classroom environment. And I think most importantly, the school system doesn't necessarily understand that there needs to be competition. I think it's getting way too soft, and I think the competitive element is somewhat missing from the modern classroom, because we seem to think that we just need to smooth out the way so that nobody feels left behind and nobody feels bad at the end of the day. This doesn't mean that I'm against learning in any way or school in any way. Of course, life is a constant learning process, don't get me wrong. And I don't want to be just highlighting the negatives here. But what I try to do with my own kids is that I try to see the forest and not just the individual trees, and focus on the big picture. There are certain things that I don't agree with 100% when it comes to school right now, and I will highlight one today. If you think about the way the students are graded, people are focusing on their weaknesses quite a bit. I'll give you an example. If there's a student who struggles in math but excels in writing, there are hours and hours spent on increasing that student's math grade from C to B, without understanding that maybe those hours could be spent on increasing that student's writing capability from A to A+. Because life rewards people being excellent at certain crafts. That difference between A and A+ could be the difference between someone's book being read by millions and being a New York Times bestseller versus only 1,000 people reading it. Because the difference between good and excellent is many times 10x in terms of inputs. And that's something that we don't seem to understand. Increasing that math grade from C to B might make no difference, assuming that C or B level competence is not a bottleneck for that person going forward. So yes, we should be focusing on improving our weaknesses so that they are no longer bottlenecks. But after that, I think all the effort should be geared towards making those strengths even stronger so that we have a laser sharp focus as far as what we are really good at, because those particular skills are the ones that take you far. Identifying and knowing what I'm good at and focusing on those, making that student even better. But that's where the modern school system goes wrong, because we are so afraid of showing that somebody is a lot better than that other person and creating that difference in classroom. So these are the things I think about as a father. And of course, I need to be careful as far as not being too vocal and aggressive, directing my kids the other way. But of course, there's the system that we all need to respect as far as being part of it. And as long as there's really no alternative, of course, homeschooling is, but it's not really a viable alternative in other countries besides maybe the United States or some other places. And still, there's always the social aspect and learning how to deal with people, different people in a classroom environment, learning how to respect the teacher and the authority. So there's a lot of pros, but there are some cons as well. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that I think as parents we should be thinking about this more. Instead of being afraid that my kid is good at this and doesn't necessarily that good at this other subject, that's fine as long as the weakness is not a bottleneck. So yes, let's work on those weaknesses so that the bottlenecks disappear. But after that, all the effort should be geared towards making that student excellent in those stronger areas. These were really the topics today in my weekly recap number 8. Tomorrow is Monday and a new week starts. New challenges, new opportunities. It's all about the mindset. I'm going to keep pushing forward in my new business, take care of some of the legacy stuff in my real estate business too. Not to worry about that too much. But 99% of my effort and my focus is on my new business, my new initiative. And that's the beauty of this. This interactive channel is my diary in the beginning. I'm documenting these lessons to myself since I don't have a large audience yet. But my audience, my capabilities will build over time. And it's very interesting to me to see what I'm able to do in a couple of years because I'm super excited. Until next time, thank you for watching.